Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gamers Hall. I'm Chris, and today doing a movie review on Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not really a movie review kind of guy, but had to do it over Dungeons and Dragons, considering that's what the channel is about. So what I'm going to do in the beginning is give you my review of the movie, basic thoughts of it, but then I'm going to add in other clips like Professor Dungeon Master, maybe some other people, and tell you whether I agree or disagree with them on their thoughts. So let's start with that.
If you watched the trailers and thought to yourself, this looks like D&D meets Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
It starts out with the leads, Edgin and Holga, in a huge prison for a grand larceny, and they have to appear before a parole board. But why? In the Middle Ages, there are no prisons or parole boards. If you're caught stealing so much as a pear, they cut off your hand. And how does the Forgotten Realms have a tax base to fund a supermax prison?
Parole boards? You got me there. There probably weren't parole boards back in the Middle Ages. But this is Dungeons and Dragons, and why wouldn't they have a parole board? They have wizards who can cast crazy spells. Why wouldn't they have prisons? Middle Ages had prisons and dungeons. I don't see why the Dungeons and Dragons Middle Ages wouldn't have something similar. And then, I mean, you have wizards that can construct all of these crazy things. Why wouldn't there be a max security prison? And on top of that, the fact of how can they fund this max security prison and taxes and stuff? The economy of Dungeons and Dragons has been broken ever since it came out. And I haven't seen any videos on anyone trying to fix it. So who cares about the economy? I mean, why does it cost the exact same to make a potion of healing that it does to buy a potion of healing? So yeah, none of it makes sense. Who cares? If you're watching a Dungeons and Dragons movie and you're thinking about the economy, then I mean, you're going in a little way too hard. How many movies have we watched where we ignore science because guess what? We're there to enjoy the entertainment.
The CGI looks like, well, CGI.
The CGI looks like CGI? Yeah. It looks like CGI. The CGI wasn't bad. Like, was it great? Was it phenomenal? No, but it wasn't bad. It was good. I wasn't really looking at it going, oh man, that looks way too fake. Why couldn't they get a real owlbear? Because they don't exist. Yeah, they have to CGI them, but it wasn't CGI like Star Wars did back in the day of when they did Jabba the Hutt. Like, that CGI was absolute terrible. You want to talk about the owlbear looking like that, but how come you don't say anything about the practical effects? Like the fact that the Dragonborn looked cool, the Tabaxis were awesome. Like, those practical effects were actually really good.
There's a sequence in an arena where the floor becomes a moving dungeon, but how does it work? I don't know. It's magic, I guess.
How does it work? Who cares how it works? When the Dungeon Master creates a funhouse dungeon, do you think the players are asking, how does this work? No, they're just trying to figure out the puzzle. They're just trying to figure out what's going on. When I made an invisible wall maze that had mounted crossbows that would shoot people every time they touched one of the walls, and the crossbow bolts could shoot through the walls, and once they hit, they would do their damage and then teleport right back to the crossbows. Do you think the players were asking me, oh my god, how does that work? What spells were you using? No, they just wanted to enjoy the game. They're not asking what mechanics I was using or what was going on. The Dungeon Masters create stuff like that all the time, and we don't explain it to the players. It's just there. And hey, who cares how it works? Now, if the players want to make it work, we'll figure something out.
I am no movie critic, but Kyle Smith of the Wall Street Journal is. And he wrote, it's a blizzard of rubbish.
Professor Dungeon Master, are you really looking at the top critics to see if this was a great movie that's gonna win Oscars? No. None of the John Wick movies won any Oscars, but guess what? They're amazing movies and people like to go watch them. I'm not trying to to watch a movie to see what the critics say, because a lot of times what critics say and what the movie actually is are completely different. Because I'm pretty sure the critics probably didn't think too highly of Monty Python's Holy Grail. But guess what? Love Holy Grail. Love it. There's too many movies out there where the critics are like, oh, this is absolute garbage, trash. And then next thing you know, it's a cult classic.
Then they had a very cool action sequence that has to do with a shape-changing druid.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
But the very last fight scene, the last fight scene, not the one in the arena, but after that, is really well done. I did enjoy that.
Yep, I agree with that too.
Every time filmmakers get their hands on the D&D IP, they start from scratch, creating characters we've never heard of before and trying to turn them into characters we want to see on the screen. The Transformers films are not great movies, but have made a lot of money because people are familiar with the characters of Optimus Prime and...
Yep, I agree with that too.
Bad marketing. Where did Paramount go to do promotion for this film? Comic-Con, where they built a huge D&D tavern. Where should they have built it? Gen Con, the spiritual home of D&D, where it was first introduced.
Yep, I agree with that too. Totally wrong on that. Totally should have went to Gen Con.
The other thing that really bothered me about this film, I stayed and read all the credits, and what I saw was a credit emblazoned across the screen based on the Dungeons & Dragons game by Hasbro. Hasbro didn't create the Dungeons & Dragons game, and they couldn't create the Dungeons & Dragons game. The Dungeons & Dragons game was created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson.
Again, I totally agree with you on that one. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson both should have gotten their credit, and they do deserve the respect because I love the game, and I wish they had done that. They messed up on that one. Hasbro didn't make Dungeons & Dragons. I agree. What do I think about the Dungeons & Dragons movie? I think it was a great movie. I mean, I've talked to some friends about it, and they all the ones that have seen it, seem to enjoy it as well. And it's a lot of fun. It really feels like a group of players sat down, played Dungeons & Dragons, and said, hey, let's turn this into a movie. And that's exactly what it feels like. So I went into it thinking, hey, this is gonna be an okay movie, maybe good, not sure. But actually, it was better. It was really good. And let's talk about the things I liked about the movie. I actually enjoyed the pacing. Didn't mind the CGI. Some people were saying it was bad, but I honestly didn't see it as bad. I liked it. Was it great? Nah. Was it good? Yes. The fight scene that they had at the end where magic's flying around everywhere and everyone's going around getting these shots in, it was awesome. The practical effects for the Dragonborns and Tabaxis, the Aarakocra, awesome. And then on top of that, Bradley Cooper was in this movie, and nobody talks about Bradley Cooper being in the movie. It was actually, he had a really funny short moment that was awesome. I like the fact that, you know, the movie was a little on the funnier side. There's a lot of other things that they did in this movie that's great for Dungeons & Dragons players. Like, they make fun of NPCs. They make fun of dungeon masters who make things that are super overly complicated. And they make fun of, like, the things that the players would do. Because, like, I mean, there's a lot of times where you're sitting around thinking, yeah, this is what a player would do. This is absolutely what players would do or have done. And then, like, the way the Wild Magic Sorcerer was working things out, awesome, really cool. There's just a lot of really cool things that they did. You know, oh, magic doesn't fix everything. Then magic shows up and fixes something. There's certain things they didn't, but a lot of really cool stuff. You know, the story wasn't bad. I liked the story. I liked what was going on, how they worked it. So anyways, guys, I don't agree with everything, but I don't disagree with a lot of things Professor Dungeon Master said. But I really like the movie. I think you guys should go see the movie. I give it a thumbs up. I mean, when it comes out, I'm definitely buying it. I'll probably do a rules lawyer video of how things don't work out, or how they, you know, played around and got a little too liberal with certain things. But otherwise, hey, tell me guys what you think. Did you guys like the movie? Did you not? Did you go see it? Put it down in the comment. And until then, see you later.